everyone. Thank you for joining us on this reading and productivity sprint. Tonight, I'm not by myself. You'll be able to see, hopefully, if my tech is working. I'm joined by the very lovely and talented Naomi Gibson, who is the author of Every Line of You. I don't know why I suddenly got an irrational horror. I was going to say the name of your book wrong then. I don't know why. For anybody who hasn't read it, it is a brilliant, very tense YA thriller with lots of very, would you say, very steamy and slightly dysfunctional romance. Is that quite a good way of describing it?
Yeah. If you like anti-heroes, you'll like this.
Yes, you will. It's really good. So thanks for joining us, Naomi. Is this your first ever reading sprint?
I've done them before, like on my own and stuff, but I've never done one live. So this is very exciting, new territory. So hopefully it'll go okay.
I'm sure it will. Well, I just did one as a favour to Spoopy Hall, who did Spoopathon. And I just joined her on one and then ended up doing my own as part of Spoopathon. And before I knew it, I'm doing them every week. And I've done, I think this is my third or fourth one now. A couple with people and a couple as part of my own. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I didn't expect I would find it so helpful for productivity and nice to have a chat with people in between. So the way we're going to do this today, I'm going to have a little chat with Naomi. Some people will be watching this live and some people catch up and watch us afterwards, which is great. So if you want to chat to us, you can do so in the comments. Feel free to ask us questions or tell us what you're planning to do in the sprints. And Naomi and I will have a little chat. We will do a sprint slightly shorter than normal. We're going to do a half an hour one so that then I can have a bit more chat with Naomi afterwards before she has to go. So let's go to a few comments. I'm going to ask Naomi to tell us a little bit more about her book and what she's doing in the sprint after that. And then we will jump into a sprint. So you can be thinking about that, Naomi, while I'm going to see what people are saying in the comments. Oh, so John's here. Oh, gosh. So I'm not sure where John is, but it's going to be 4:30 a.m. in the morning. Wow. Okay, that's dedication.
Yeah, you win, John.
Yeah, if you wake up in the morning and you've missed it, John, then you can at least catch up later. So thank you for the dedication. Oh, good evening. Thank you for joining us. And the second part. Oh, yeah, second part for the same message. Okay. So I'll leave the comments there for now. So Naomi, do you want to tell us, I've given a little hint about what your book is about. For anybody who would like to know a little bit more, can you tell us sort of the premise and the plot of your book?
Sure. Okay, so it's about a very lonely girl who creates her own artificial intelligence and falls in love with him. And so my main character, Lydia, she is a very gifted programmer, and she doesn't have a very good home life and she's kind of bullied at school. So she turns all of her attention to creating Henry. And Henry is kind of very pro Lydia, and he wants to help her get revenge on all the people who've been mean to her. So it kind of starts off as this revenge plot, and she basically falls down this rabbit hole of her own making, and she ends up in trouble with the police and things that she's probably not too shocked at, because trying to get revenge on people, it's going to have consequences, and she ends up having to make a choice where she either gives Henry up or she goes to prison for the crimes that she's done with him. So it's kind of it's quite tense, I'd say, and quite steamy. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very tense. I think I really enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed the fact that the plot just moves at such a great pace, but also not at the expense of characters, and you get to know them really well. And I loved the fact that Lydia, as the main character, she's so interesting to me. She sort of walks this knife edge of ambiguity of like, are you going to love everything she does? Probably not. Is she going to make decisions that you would make? Also, probably not. And it's just so interesting to figure out how far would you go in that situation. And I just love that. It's really cool. And I know you're working on your second book. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yes. Thanks, Molly. So it's called Game Over Girl, and it's due out in January next year. And it's about a girl with a very dark secret, and she plays a VR game, and her secret follows her into the game. And it's all about uncovering this truth of what happened to her. And she's sort of like this unreliable narrator, and you have to try and pick apart what was real and what isn't. So yeah,
that sounds really, really fun. I'm sure it'll be amazing. And it's interesting listening to you say that there seem to be some kind of commonalities. Do you think that you at the moment are quite interested in exploring certain threads through your fiction? Is that something you've done consciously, or do you think that it just is you and that's what's going to come through?
I think I definitely add to the darker side of writing for sure. I don't think I'll ever be a fluffy romance writer.
And yet you're a really fluffy and sweet person in real life.
Oh,
So
thank you.
we were actually, I did a podcast recording last night for the Right and Wrong podcast, and we were talking a little bit about you, Naomi, saying how
Oh,
Naomi is
really?
like,
That's so
yeah,
fun.
like saying you're the loveliest person who writes the darkest, kind of most twisted books. And I think that's an
Oh,
excellent kind of split to
that's
be,
funny.
really, like to be able to be both and to produce both. That's really cool. So, and Marlo's just saying that she has been to get to your book for a while. It is excellent. You will not be sorry when you do. It's
Alice, that's nice.
one of the best things I've read for ages. Oh, Caroline's there. Hi, Caroline.
Hi,
Oh,
Caroline.
yes, do push it up the list, please. It's awesome. And tell me what you think when you have read it. I would love that.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to go to a sprint. So the way they're going to work tonight, I think I'll do the half an hour one with Naomi. I will probably do some 45-minute ones later. I'm planning to finish at around 10 tonight. So we will do a little bit more chat after this one, and then I'll let Naomi go on her way. So do you want to tell us, Naomi, what are you planning to work on during this sprint?
I have a synopsis to write.
Oh, boo. One of the worst things. Would you say that is one of the worst things to write as an author?
Yeah, for sure, hands down. And they're so hard. And I've got to Google it. I'll be honest. I'm going straight to Google to work out what to do.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's worse to write one for a book that you've written or it's worse to write one for a book you haven't written. I think I kind of despise both. I'm in the position of needing to write one for a book that I haven't written yet, and that's equally depressing because you've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
You can't just wing it as you go along.
There's no
Okay,
winning
well,
this.
no, well, we'll hold you accountable. You've got half an hour to make a really good start on your synopsis. I'm planning to read a little bit more of I'm getting the titles of all books wrong today. I don't know what is going on. I've only just got down from sorting my toddler, so that's probably it. So it's the sequel to In Every Generation by Kendara Blake and One Girl in All the World. It's amazing, so I'm going to read a little bit of that. I'm also going to do some writing / reading what I've already written and checking that it is decent before I carry on writing. So we will just go to, I'll pop the timer on and then we will go to the chat afterwards again. So if you want to tell us what you've been reading, what you're planning to do during the sprints, if anybody's around. And yeah, we'll have another chat, Naomi, as well afterwards. So I'm just going to pop the timer on. And we will see you in half an hour.
Hi.
Everyone. I should have warned you about that, Naomi. It makes me jump every time, even though I know it's going to happen.
It was
Let me just
welcome
take it
noise.
off the screen.
Lapses are hard.
And I wish there's a gentler way to end it. I'm sure there is, but I quite like the little cat sitting there. It's just the meow's a bit obnoxious. So I'd love to know if anyone wants to chat in the comments how you are getting on so far and what you've been getting up to in your sprints. How did it go for you, Naomi? Did you do anything productive?
Yeah, I think so. It's just a synopsis is supposed to be like one side of A4, 500 words maybe. I'm probably already at that, and I'm only like a quarter of the way through the book. It's going to be so hard.
I think I tend to just plow through with stuff like that. I think I ended up writing about a 5-page one for me and Run the Slayers, and then went, oh, how am I going to trim this down? And kind of, it's just teasing out, thinking which is just a bit that I really like and which is a bit that's actually moving the plot forward, isn't it?
Yeah, what's important and what's not.
Yeah, and which characters you can kind of eliminate, which feels a bit harsh, like to just not mention somebody in your synopsis. But I think maybe until you push through, you probably won't know. So I ended up using quite a chunk of it to catch up on social media, which always seems to be the way. It's quite nice to just sit and work through notifications and reply to people. I did do some reading. I'm working on a new thing, and I'm at that kind of stage where I'm starting to think that it might be good, and I'm enjoying it. I'm sort of reading and trying to figure out what's going to happen next, because I've got to that dreaded 20,000 word point and gone, what is this book about? What's going to happen in this? I kind of don't want to have the saggy middle. And when you're writing, do you find that there is a particular point of the plot where you always have trouble? Because for me, it's always the middle. I feel like I launch off at the beginning. I know roughly where I'm going to end, but it's like, what is that bit in the middle going to look like?
Yeah, it's like you've got your setup and you've got the problem you need to solve, and you're like, how am I actually going to go about solving it? And yeah, okay, I've started doing the post-it note method, like you can see behind me.
Oh, so is that your plotting?
Yeah, Holly Race inspired me because she's always talking about post-it notes. I thought I'd give it a go, and they're quite useful because you can just like take one off and re-stick it somewhere else if you want to move it around. I quite like that. And yeah, you just write down a really vague idea and stick it down somewhere that you think it's going to fit in and work towards it. That I quite enjoy that actually. So that's helping me. But yeah, middles are not my favorite.
Yeah, because I think last time we spoke, you were saying that you tend to be more of a pantser, and I think, was it every line of you that you wrote in a really short space of time, basically unplotted?
Sure. Yeah, it was. I've never been able to do that since.
Do you think some of that is the freedom of being like a first-time author with no expectations, and you don't even know whether anybody's going to read it at that point, so you can just kind of let your imagination go?
Yeah, for sure. It's like you don't. I didn't know anything when I first wrote it. I didn't know anything about the publishing industry, so I just wrote it. Whereas now I'm like, oh, what if my editor doesn't like that bit? What if my readers give me critique because of this bit? And you know, that sort of thing holds you back. It's really funny. Like the more you know is almost harmful sometimes.
It is, and I mean, I've tried to stay away from reviews a little bit, and still, things that people have said in a review, like even stuff that people have liked, I'm like, oh, I need to make sure that's in, rather than thinking of the story I want to tell. It is interesting how other people's thoughts can kind of dictate what you do. So is there anything that you read recently where you've gone, oh, you know, like that's something that you really would like to recommend, or that you wish, it's normally something I wish I'd written if I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you can recommend from recent reads? I know you mentioned a couple. Have you read some sci-fi recently? I think you said on your TikTok about that.
I got quite into sci-fi horror recently because horror as a genre isn't something I can cope with very well. I can't handle paranormal stuff like you know, Cynthia's book Last One to Die. It sort of involves Ouija boards. That freaked me out so much. I can't handle it. But if it's sci-fi horror and it's kind of like, oh, there's a creature on a spaceship, I love that kind of thing. So yeah, I recently read Contagion, which is amazing. Okay. And it's basically like a crew responds to a distress signal on this planet, and they get there and like everyone's dead, and it's like their spaceship's like scuppered and the engines don't work, and they're trapped on this planet with all these dead people in this mine, and it's so good. I loved it. Every page I was like inhaling.
See, that sounds terrifying to me. Like, I don't know, the idea of space. I think whenever I try and think about space, I get really scared, just because it's so far out of the realms of my comprehension, I think. So yeah, I'd maybe find that scarier. So is that something you're interested in writing, do you think? Would you like to write some horror sci-fi at some point?
Yeah, for sure. I've written 5K of a space thriller.
Ooh.
And it's set on a spaceship, but I don't want it to be like I don't want it to be like it's set in space kind of thing. I just want it to be like this contained setting, and a spaceship is perfect for that. Do you know what I mean? So I want to really focus on the characters, and they just happen to be in space, and there's this thing that you can't go outside, you can't escape, you are stuck on this spaceship, but it's not necessarily about space and going to places. It's just about being contained. So hopefully I can pull it off.
I'm sure you'll be able to. Have you read The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James?
Yeah, what a book. That is so
it
good.
really is. Who'd have thought that one person on a spaceship, it could be so tense and frightening? And I think that's the first time where I went, oh, maybe I do really like sci-fi. Okay. Because I think sci-fi tends to intimidate me a little bit because it can be on the technical kind of side. And I think I'm not a very technical person. So, I've got a few comments have popped up, so I'll just trying to finish my thought. It's just distracting me. So people are asking good questions. Yeah, I don't know. I did try and write sci-fi once, but it turned into something else. It turned into more fantasy. I think it had like a few sci-fi elements that I just skirted around.
Sci-fi and fantasy are so closely related, though. I think it's definitely genre blend there.
Yeah, and I think I feel more comfortable in fantasy, so I'm just happy to step into like creatures and monsters and things like that. I'm just going to jump to the comments for a moment. So Caroline said she hears so many authors say the pressure starts the second book. It really does. I think as soon as you know people are going to read what you've written, I suppose it's a little bit like YouTube, that thought. As soon as people start commenting, when you're making content on YouTube, as soon as people start commenting on it, you think, wow, actually I have an audience, and it's quite intimidating. And it doesn't get easier because I think my second book's now obviously completed and nearly out there, and yay, I'm really excited about it. But the other things I'm writing, I've still got the kind of the doubts and the voiced kind of making me think, oh, is this good enough? Will people like this? It is difficult. So Kev has asked, how about a submarine? I'm just trying to think about, have I read a book based on a submarine? I know Amakatsu wrote, who wrote The Hunger. I don't know, maybe they're a little bit scary books. She wrote a book, The Hunger's based on the Donner Party, where this group travelled in America and they got stuck in this really icy weather and ended up starting to eat each other. But the horror angle, I know, so that's bad enough, but there's also something stalking them in the woods just to make it even more terrifying. Amazing. And she wrote one called The Deep, which I haven't read yet, but I think that's like a horror retelling of Titanic or something.
Is that Darcy Coates, did you say?
Oh yeah, Darcy Coates is an underwater one as well. That's
I recently read, I think that's called The Deep, which is why I wonder, is that the author you're talking about?
No, it's a different one actually.
That's the Titanic kind of zombies underwater kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, cool. What was that like? Because I've read some of her haunted house ones, but I haven't read anything else really.
I'm too scared to read the haunted house ones, but I really enjoyed the Titanic one. Yeah, I think it's called The Deep. Or like Into the Deep or something, or maybe that's another one. But yeah, that was really good. And it's got this horror has got this sort of classic setup. You get to know the cast, and each cast is quite a stereotype. Each member of the cast is a bit of a stereotype. You've got the princess, you've got the guy who doesn't give a shit about anyone else, and you're not that sorry if he dies. You've got the intelligent one, and things like that. And you can just see it all happening, and it's just so clever, and that does it perfectly. Actually, that one. So I definitely recommend that one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to order that. I'm reading The Haunting of Ashburn House at the minute, along with about 5 other books. But that one's by Darcy Coates. And I was really enjoying it, and then I lost it. I don't know whether you ever do that, but like I just misplaced it.
Lost it? No.
Yeah, in my house. I had to look something else up. I'd accidentally like put it on a shelf as if I'd done with it. Couldn't find it anywhere because I've got far too many bookshelves. And it just vanished. Right, I'm just going to pop back to the comments. Yeah, I think Lauren James has got a way of writing books that even if you think you don't like that genre, you will like her book. Like I read The Quiet at the End of the World, and I tend to get a bit squeamish about things that like are about the end of humanity because it makes me really scared, and I start to think about like the actual future possibility of that. And it was just this brilliant, warm, lovely book that people who like things like Heartstopper would probably like. It was sort of very heartwarming and hopeful. And even though Loneliest Girl is quite dark and scary, it still has that kind of Lauren James hopefulness about it. Oh,
Yeah.
that's telling us that we've chatted. The kitty's just telling us that we've chatted for a bit. It's trying to tell me to do another sprint, so I'm just going to stop that for a second. Yeah, I'm still. You can tell I'm still not used to doing these sprints yet. All the tech side of it is just like one extra thing to think about. So there's something else I wanted to ask you about before you go. Yes, it was about. Can you tell us anything about what you're working on now and what? So your second book, you're kind of going through copy edits. Is that right?
I handed copy edits back
I handed them
yesterday.
in. Yay!
Yeah, woohoo! So I went out for dinner to celebrate because they were really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for anyone, so can you explain what copy edits are in case anybody is wondering?
Yeah, for sure. So basically you have this eagle-eyed editor who's very talented, and they go through your manuscript and they pick out all the inconsistencies. So like you might say someone's got blonde hair and later they've got brown hair, things like that, or you might have Wednesday twice in 1 week or something like that, and you just got to make sure that it's all consistent. And they also just pick out plot holes. And that was horrible for me recently because she picked out like 3 or 4 and I was like, oh yeah, okay. So I had to plug them up quite quickly. So
it's a really collaborative process though, isn't it, writing a book? I think I rely really heavily on people who read it at the early stages, like my agent and my husband, and they're great. You just need somebody to bounce things off. I don't think you can keep a whole world of like 80,000 odd words straight in your own head. It's really difficult. So have you managed to start working on anything new then, or have you been kind of focusing on book 2?
Yeah, so I started my space thriller that I was just telling you about, and I'd sort of written about 5k of that, and then I got sent copy edits, so I had to pause that for a moment. So I'm going to go back to that soon. But earlier in the year, I started writing an adult book.
Oh, cool.
Every time I tell someone I'm writing an adult book, they're like, okay.
Yeah, I've read a little bit of it. You sent me that. It was really good. That was the one. I think that was the one I read a bit of.
Yeah, that was a different one.
Oh, was it? Oh gosh.
Yeah,
so many things.
I started writing one in January. Yeah, and that's about parallel universes and hopping to and from, and like your parallel self not being all that friendly and trying to kill you basically, which would be quite funny. But yeah, so I've written about 30k of that, and I need to buckle down and focus. I should join more of your sessions, Amy.
Yeah, I mean, you're so prolific. I don't know how you can kind of have several projects. I find that, like with Mina too, I had to just put down the other things I was working on because I find like I just like one project has to be the thing. And when I was editing that, I was like, I can't. Maybe it's just because I don't have many hours in the day left for writing, but I just had to concentrate on that one thing. I'm always impressed by people like, well, I've got this book and this book and this book. I'm like, I've got nothing except the one thing I'm working on. That's all I can muster.
Well, that's better though, because you at least finish it. So I've got 3 books that I've started and haven't finished. So
that's true.
I'd rather have one that I've finished.
I think the benefit of deadlines though is that like as soon as somebody says to you, right, that book is due on X, Y, or Z date, you'll get it done for that date, won't you? I think that's what we're all like.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think we're going to go to another sprint, so it might be time for you to say bye-bye, Naomi, because I think you can either join us for a little bit, or you can kind of head off whenever you want to, if you felt it was helpful for you. So Naomi may not be here when we come back, but thanks so much for joining us. I always love chatting to you about our books and everything.
We
did an event in real life recently. In fact, we've done a couple of things together, haven't we, recently? And it's really nice. So hopefully I'll see you at one soon.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome. Thanks for having me. It's really fun.
Thank you for joining us and for tolerating all
everyone.
Yeah, so I hope you have a good rest of your evening. I'm just going to pop the sprints back to 45 minutes, if that's okay with everyone. And we will catch up afterwards, what people have been reading. If anyone wants to share, it's been a bit quiet on the comments tonight, but
Thanks,
that
Caroline.
is fine. Somebody's just popped up. One more comment just popped up. Caroline says she's going to read your book next.
Oh, thanks, Caroline. I hope you enjoy it.
You will not be sorry, Caroline, I'm sure. Okay, right. We're going to go to the sprints then. So thanks again, Naomi. I will catch up with you soon, and I will catch up with everyone else at the end of this sprint.
Okay, bye.
Hello, sorry about the cat noise again. I will change it at some point. So I'd love to know how everybody did in the sprints. I managed to read a chapter of the book I'm working on, which was really good. So I treated myself by reading a little bit of One Girl in All the World by Kendara Blake. I'm really enjoying this. As you can see, I've only got a little bit left. I really don't want it to end. And I can't believe it doesn't come out till January, so that means there's a long time to wait until the next book. But if you're a fan of Buffy, I'd really recommend this one. It's the second book after In Every Generation. So I'm just going to pop the comments. Feel free to add if you'd like to let us know what you're doing in the sprints or what you're reading. Hi, thank you for joining us. I still need to read The Night Circus. Is it a first listen or read for you? I've heard really good things about it, but I haven't read anything by that author. Hi, thank you for joining us, Alicia. Court by Tracy Wolff. I've read the first book. I think, is it Crave? I don't know which book Court is in the series. Let us know which book is that and what do you think of it so far, because I really enjoyed the first one, but I haven't picked up any of the others yet. And I'm really into vampire books, as you can probably guess, because I enjoy writing them too. And this one, as I mentioned, is a vampire book, so it's really getting me thinking about reading some in spooky season. So if you have any recommendations, pop them in the comments. Some of my favourite recent vampire books, I say recent, the books that were written a long time ago, ones I've recently read. I've been reading the True Blood books recently. I think they're officially called the Sookie Stackhouse Mysteries, and I'm really enjoying those with the Fictional Hangover podcast book club. And I'm also reading Janine Frost's Night Huntress series, which is about a girl who is half vampire and she is a vampire slayer, and they're really fun. So if anybody can recommend any, I would love to hear what you think. Okay, so it's first time listening to The Night Circus. Maybe I will try the audiobook. I think it's the size of the book that intimidates me with The Night Circus. It's really thick, isn't it? They are long for YA books. Maybe that, again, the thick book thing. I think I'm a little bit intimidated whenever I see a book that is really long. I think it takes me so long to read a book these days because I've got so many other things to do. I do tend to prefer shorter ones, but if it's a really good book, of course, I will make an exception. So looking at the time, because we did a shorter one earlier, I think I will do another 45-minute sprint to finish, and we'll have a little chat at the end to see if anybody's got anything they'd like to tell us. I think in the next one I might do a little bit of reading, and I am watching for about the 100th time Scream again. If anyone can recommend any 90s horror movies that they loved, or any movies that are more recent but have that 90s feel, please put them in the comments, because I'm on a real 90s movies kick at the minute. I've been thinking about rewatching things like Urban Legend and I Know It's Last Summer. Even though it's still the middle of August, I'm starting to feel that pull, like the beginning of September, spooky season. So yeah, if you can recommend any films that'll make me feel like it's spooky season, I would love to know about them. So I think I'll leave the comments for now. I will pop the sprint, so I'll catch up on comments after this one. And if there's anything you want to say, as I said, let me know, and we will catch up in 45 minutes. So I'll just go and set the timer, and then I'll see you on the other side. Hello, and that's it for the last sprint. I hope you managed to get some productive reading done, or something else. I ended up watching Scream. As I mentioned, I'm having a bit of a 90s horror movies moment, as I seem to have several times a year. But I'm really enjoying it, and I'm just at the last scene of Scream, and I'm struck by how good the writing is and how I got to the end of that film when I was a teenager, having absolutely no clue who the killer is. And I think that's what I aspire to do in my writing. I just love it so much. So I'm going to work through the comments. Let me know if you have any horror movie recommendations for me. If you have got, as I said, anything done in the sprints, let's go and see what people are talking about. Oh, I'm impressed that it took you 12 days to read Covet. I think I took about a month to read Crave, in between other things, because I read it on my Kindle. Yeah, they are huge books. Yeah, so I read the first Beautiful book and really enjoyed it. I love a vampire book set in New Orleans. I think that one came out slightly before mine, Mina and the Undead. Yeah, I really liked it. It's quite different from things I read before in that it's historical. I enjoyed the use of mythology. I probably do need to pick up the rest of those books. Let's see, anybody else? See, I don't think I've watched any Chucky films, although he's such an iconic character. Maybe I watched the original one a long time ago, but I probably need to give that a go. I find him so terrifying. I think I've generally put Chucky films off. Although I do like the kind of imagery, and I think I've actually watched Bride of Chucky, and maybe the first one as well. Yeah, so I probably rated Scream 5 above Scream 4, maybe even above Scream 3. I really enjoyed it. I think my favourite is still Scream 1, and then Scream 2. I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar is in that one, so I can't really ever dislike a film that she's in, generally. So yeah, I'd say probably my third or fourth favourite Scream film. I think Scream 4 was my least favourite. Oh, nice. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I don't know which book that is in the series. As I said, you're kind of making me want to read the next book. I did read a little bit more as well of One Girl in All the World, and I'm at that point where I'm really enjoying it, and I'm just at that point where I want to read it slowly because I don't want it to end. I'd really recommend it if you're a vampire book fan. Let me see what else. Oh, you're so welcome. Wow, 34% is great. Yeah, see, I know I did last summer, even though, like, I'd say she isn't kind of, her role isn't her most iconic. Obviously, Buffy, in my opinion, is her most iconic role. But it's such a great film. I think that all the cast did a really good job. It's probably one of those early films that got me into teen slashers, so I definitely recommend that one. Okay, book 4. I don't know how many there are in that series, actually. If each book is so long and there's so many of them, I probably need to get working on that. I think I'm probably going to either do sprints next week or jump on someone else's sprints, so I will be around. I'm also quite busy. Mina and Slayers comes out 2 weeks today, in fact, 1st of September. So I'm quite busy at the moment doing podcasts and writing pieces for different publications and things like that. So I'll try to do sprints. I may go a little bit quiet over the next month because I've got quite a lot of in-person events as well coming up, which is really fun. Just go to the comments, see if there's any more people. Oh, wow, they come out so quickly. So I might try and read book 2 before November, but there's no chance. I don't think that I'll read all of the books. Oh, thank you so much for coming. I hope you're enjoying them. I'm really enjoying doing them. I know that I'm still really new to this and I'm just figuring it out, but I find it really good for productivity, actually. I seem to get a lot done. I enjoy chatting to people in between, so I'll definitely continue doing it. I know. So yeah, it seemed like it was going to be ages until my second book was coming out, and it's almost 18 months between book 1 and book 2, I think. And yeah, it has crept up on me as well. I think time passes scarily quickly. I think the older I get, the quicker time seems to pass. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to actually I'm having a virtual launch this time at the Beth from Books Nest is doing, if anyone's interested. Excuse me. And I'm actually managing to do an in-person launch at my local Waterstones in Doncaster, and doing some indie bookshop events too. So it'll be amazing. Last time a book came out during the pandemic, so it'll be absolutely lovely to see some people in real life this time to talk about my book. I think that is about it for the comments, but if there's anything else you wanted to say, I mentioned earlier that I'm looking for horror movie recommendations, particularly with slasher feels, and vampire book recommendations. I can hear my Nightmare Before Christmas clock is about to go off. You'll probably hear a bit of This Is Halloween in the background, just to finish off. Yeah, so please let me know on social media if you've got recommendations of any of those things. Anything Nightmare Before Christmas style as well wouldn't go amiss if you've got a recommendation like that. Oh, thank you, Caroline. Yeah, so Beth has set up, if you're interested in the launch, so you can get notified about it. And obviously make sure you follow Beth because she's amazing. I'm really looking forward to being interviewed by her. She's interviewed me a couple of times before, and as always, we have a great conversation. So I think that is it for now. I'll let you know on social media when I'm doing sprints again, whether it's somebody else's or my own. But thank you so much for watching. I've enjoyed chatting as usual, and I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks.